All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 389 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller, and today we're going to talk more Georgia Southern football. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football, but not much has been going on with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, it's kind of a little quiet over there, but over in Eagle Nation, it's kind of picking up a little bit. We picked up a couple of recruits from that transferred from Minnesota and Louisville respectively, and they're on the team. But we're going to go look a little bit ahead forward down the road to the running backs that we have. We're going to talk a little bit about Omari Arnold. We're also going to talk about Terrence Gibbs, and we're going to discuss if Georgia Southern is going to continue to sustain the legacy of running backs going forward, because Coach Clay Helton does talk a little bit about the running back situation at Georgia Southern, and we're going to touch on that. Now, mostly we, hear about Clay Helton. We talk about the passing game, especially with Cal Van Treese coming in, but I think we got something really special with the running back situation. We're going to touch on that today. All right. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is the First and Frame Rate Show. Once again, I am VF Baller, and I can be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Like I said, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football, and we're going to get into this topic right here. I mean, for the past few months, I've been very, very excited about what's been going on at Georgia Southern. And I mean, I knew once Coach Clay Helton stepped on, the grounds of Georgia Southern University, I knew something special was going to happen. Whatever that happened with the situation at USC, I get it. You don't, do your best at certain places. That's what for anybody anywhere. Some jobs aren't for you. Some jobs are for you. But overall, I think he did okay at USC. Maybe not to their standards, but that's another story for another day. I think he did okay. With him coming to Georgia Southern and the changes that he's made is nothing short of phenomenal. The transfers, the recruits, the culture, the vibe, the atmosphere, all of that stuff has been really, really exciting. And I can't see how anybody who's been watching what's going on, how could you not be excited? I know there's been some, ups and downs with the former coach, and we love Coach Lunsford, but he's moving on to, I ain't gonna say bigger, but necessarily better things, because where he is now, it's a beautiful place down there in Boca Raton. I think it's Boca Raton, Florida. But I want to visit, but nevertheless, Coach Clay Helton bringing in a wholly different culture, and it looks very promising. We're gonna talk about these two running backs that he helped bring into Statesboro, and like I said, we're going to talk about the legacy of, running backs at Georgia Southern. Can it be sustained with these two guys coming in after the ones we have now? Now, we're going to talk about Omari Arnold. I'm going to talk about his stats, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on him. Omari Arnold he ended up committing to Georgia Southern. I think it was around in February, or whatever the case may be. I want to say it was around February. And with that being said, I want to apologize to you guys because I never really looked at this kid's stats. I mean, everybody knows about the game that he had, and the one game he had like 21 carries for 321. But if you look at his overall stats his senior year, I mean, I'm just going to read them to you, and I'll put the link in the description so you guys could check this out. The senior year of him playing football, man, this is phenomenal. He ran the ball 217 times for 2,544 yards, 11.7 yards per carry, averaging over 180 yards a game. He had 42 touchdowns. That is insane when you think about when I look at somebody like this, and I mean he helped put Brooks County in one of the top level teams in the state of Georgia. But when you look at a guy like this, I haven't seen numbers like this, not in close to after I saw Jalen White's numbers in Daleville, Alabama, which I know somewhere on this channel, or if you're looking at YouTube, you can look at those stats, or you can talk about I talk about those stats in a video where I was looking like, wow, this is amazing. And this kid with the speed that he has is going to bring a presence to Georgia Southern running game that we're used to. We're used to seeing kids or football players that have like blazing speed. When I talk about sustaining the legacy, you talk about guys that are just outright fast. The Gerald Greens of the world is one of them. And I don't even want to go down to names because there's so many running backs that we had that are just phenomenal. And not just running backs, just ball carriers. I don't want to go down that list because I will be here forever. But if you know anything about Georgia Southern football, you know what I'm talking about. So with the speed this kid has, the rushing yards, 2,544 yards, averaging over 180 yards a game, 42 touchdowns. He went over 100 yards, 100 yards plus 11 times in 14 games. So he fits right in with what, just Georgia Southern football wants to do. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Coach Clay Helton, implements that in his game or his game plan. And you will listen to some words from him in a minute about what he wants out of his running backs or the type of running backs he's looking for. So that's going to be really interesting. So I think Omari Arnold just fits right in to what Georgia Southern football does as far as running the ball, even though that this whole situation is kind of turning a new leaf as far as offense goes. Terrence Gibbs played football at Masters. It says right here, Masters Academy in Odevio, Florida. I think I said that right. Nevertheless, I want to go back. Let me see. Okay, I'm looking at right here. His freshman year, he ran for 1,500 yards. His sophomore year, he ran for 1,000 yards, 1,092. Averaging 150 in his freshman year, averaging 121 his sophomore year. Now, his junior year, he ended up going down with an ACL tear. And with that being said, he was able to, recover from that. But at the same time, he was going to commit to Florida. And once he pulled away from Florida, the recruiting, recruiting was open, and a lot of teams decided they wanted to come at him. I think Texas was one of them, and I think it was another Power 5 school that wanted him. So they wanted Terrence Gibbs' services. Now, Terrence Gibbs is the type of kid that's going to possibly end up running over people. At 6'1", and he's possibly going to end up at 210, 215, 220, and they say he has breakaway speed as well as power. So when you have these two running backs here, one kid that can outrun everybody for the most part, and you have a Terrence Gibbs that's basically a bruiser, but has that mix between where he can, make some things happen. I also feel that Terrence Gibbs is going to be that guy that can continue that legacy of running backs. Now, also, you have to understand that Terrence Gibbs was classified as a 4-star running back in various places. So for him to get picked up by Georgia Southern, it was a really big deal. Now, also what I want to say about Terrence Gibbs, this is a win. This is a really good, comfortable situation for Terrence Gibbs because even though he went down the ACL tear, it gives him a chance to really work his way back into football shape slowly. He doesn't have to worry about trying to go out there and play right away, or they try to give him a lot of reps because he's going to be behind on the depth. I would think. I'm not going to say I don't know what it is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know what it is. He may be a little bit back on the depth chart and be played sparingly. And that just a perfect situation for him. I don't know. A lot of people saying that he may play right away along with Jalen Wyatt and Gerald Green. I'm not so sure about that, but I'm confident, that he would be ready to go if need be. And that's, the thing about it. At the end of the day, Terrence Gibbs is in a pretty good situation because this 1 year that he's sitting in college, he can watch and see how things go. It's not much pressure on him. And not only that, I'm pretty sure he's fully healed. I'm not saying that he's not healed, but he can slowly work his way back in. That's why I said that he could come in when, let's say garbage time, or if they really want to see that what he can do. Now, not only that, what if he comes in and just start outshining everybody? Now, I know that's a tall task, but what if that happens? This is a really good situation to have for Georgia Southern, because the thing about running backs is you don't have to rely on a bell cow fully. You want a guy that's going to be a primary guy, but you don't really want to put that much on players, running backs per se. So, like I said, once again, it's a really good situation. Now, I want to talk about briefly Jalen White, J.D. King, Gerald Green, the other running backs we have here. I think those three guys in general, that we already know what we got out of those three guys. Those three guys can actually put, some numbers up. So that's not the problem. I think they're going to sustain that legacy as far as running backs and the names of running backs that came through, that came through Georgia Southern. The Wesley Fields of the world and everybody that was behind him. They've done a very good job of making sure we can run the ball at a very elite level. Now, Coach Clay Helton, before I go, I want to put Coach Clay Helton out here and give you his take on getting these two guys, the Omari Arnold getting Omari Arnold and Terrence Gibbs. So we're going to listen to what he had to say when the press conference was about him actually, picking up these recruits and what he thought of them. So let's run that real quick and give you my thoughts and opinions on that before we get out of here.
In being able to look at that room right from the get-go and having a J.D. King here, being able to have Gerald, being able to have a Jalen White, we saw immense talent within that unit, but experienced talent, and we really felt like we needed to bring that same level of talent in this class. And to be able to acquire an Omari Arnold, who really shined this year in his senior season, and now add a Terrence Gibbs. I mean, you're talking the best of all worlds, both now and for the future. And it was a great combination for us. When you look at the two styles of the two running backs, you kind of got thunder and lightning. You got a guy that's probably going to end up being 220 pounds in Terrence that really brings explosiveness, brings great running ability between the tackles. And then you got Omari that you hold your breath every time he touches the ball because it could go the distance with his speed and especially, his ability out in space to make the last man miss. It was a great combination for us. So we came in to this recruiting class knowing that, the running back position was one of our strongest, if not the strongest, on our football team. But we also knew it was guys that were going into their fifth year, their third year. They were older guys, and we really needed to invest not only for the present but for the future in the two young men that we signed.
See, that's what I was saying. I didn't want to keep that going. Sorry about that. But that just goes back to what I was saying about sustaining that legacy. At the end of that, you heard him say, like, I want to be remiss. That clip is courtesy of Savannah Morning News, SavannahNow.com. I do want to give credit where credit is due. But what I want to say is, he goes back to just saying, like, you got guys that are here that can make things happen. The Thunder and Lightning, the Jalen Whites, the J.D. King, the Gerald Greens. Gerald Green is that Lightning. Jalen White and J.D. King is that Thunder. But when you bring other guys in, like a Gibbs and Omari Arnold, they're basically bringing new guys in that could fill that same void. If there isn't really a void, but just to fill those shoes of the guys that are going out the door once they graduate or they decide to declare for the draft early. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, especially if we have a successful season. And that's another thing you got to think about. If we have a successful season and let's say, a couple of these guys do decide to declare for the draft, you got these guys right here already in waiting. And if they get a little bit of playing time and get a little bit of taste of college football, they'll be ready to go right out the gate. So it's a really good situation for Georgia Southern. Once again, we talk about the quarterbacks, we talked about the receivers, we talk about some guys on defense. One thing, and it's a reason why we don't talk about running backs too much, because we've been spoiled. We've been spoiled to feel like, running back, we're going to always run the ball. We're always going to be able to run the ball very well. I mean, we run 200, 300, 400 yards a game. But this offense is different, and it's a really big deal. Even with the offense being different, we still were able to get high caliber running backs. Terrence Gibbs was like actually being recruited by, some Power 5 schools. I'm not sure about Omari Arnold. I know that I think Appalachian State and Coastal wanted him, but Sorry, we end up getting them, and that's how we roll down here in Georgia Southern when it comes to running back. So you know how it is. Nevertheless, we end up getting these two guys, and it's safe to say when you really look at everything that has happened, I think we're going to continue to sustain that legacy. I think we're going to continue to have pretty good running backs coming through here. We also have to understand that as far as talent goes, Coach Clay Helton has put some pretty good running backs into the pros. I know what's the name? Williams from Memphis was one of them. So it was that's one thing that he was really good at. That, and I think it was a couple of the running backs out of USC as well. I don't want to try to chase everything down and try to find it because that was on the fly when I was trying to figure it out. But I know D'Angelo Williams from Memphis was one of them. So he has the capability to have an eye for talent when it comes to running backs. And one thing, before I close, because I know it's been going for over 15 minutes, I try to keep this between 15 and 25. Coach Clay Helton has a very good eye for talent. And I would be remiss if I don't give him props for that, because clearly we're seeing it with this transition to the new form of Georgia Southern football. Also, I think it's Matt Merritt, the running backs coach from Tennessee. He's another guy that's down here that can help these running backs get to the next level. So not only just Coach Clay Helton, the staff in general, not just the running backs coach, but you look at all these other ones, other guys that are staff members at Georgia Southern football, with the Georgia Southern football program. We have some really good staff members in talent here. Whoever said 3-9, they may be in a rude awakening, but we'll talk about the record and, other things going forward and more likely closer to the season. I touched on it one time already, but once we get closer, we'll touch on it again. Best believe, because there's too many people out here giving us sub 500 records. Definitely going to have to address that. If you like this commentary, hit the like button. If you like this podcast, share this podcast. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hopefully, you guys are really enjoying this, because we're rolling. We're 11 away. This one's pretty much in the can. We're going to be 10 away from 400 episodes. Shout out to the guys who helped start this podcast, DJ81 and Bill's Fourth. They started, they helped me start this. I turned it into something else, but those guys, it wouldn't have been, definitely wouldn't have been anything without those guys. Shout out to many others who helped, which I will go down that list one day. Don't want to go down there now, but those two guys definitely deserves a lot of praise. Also, you, the viewer, the listener, deserves a lot of praise as well. I really appreciate you guys coming through on a daily basis, showing love and support. I cannot do this without y'all. And, this is just a beautiful thing. And getting closer to the football season, I see the growth. And it's not just me just doing this, it's you guys. Because without you guys, I wouldn't be trying my best every time. I thank you guys very much. If you want to catch out all the podcast avenues, is Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. Give me a 5-star rating over there. Also, if you want to watch this podcast, it's on YouTube and Rumble. The Rumble situation is fixed. All the podcasts should be up there if you want to watch on Rumble. And for the most part, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Enjoy your Wednesday. Make the most of it. It's hump day. Everything is going downhill from there. And with that being said, you guys take it easy. You guys be blessed. Peace.